the quiet between thoughts. Most people believe their life is happening in front of them, but your real life is happening inside of you. Not in your job, not in your past, not in tomorrow, not in the opinions of strangers, not even in the endless conversation inside your mind. Your life exists in one hidden place, the quiet space between thoughts. Very few people ever notice it. They spend years chasing noise, more success, more approval, more distraction, more entertainment, hoping one final achievement will silence the restlessness inside them. But the noise never ends, because the mind survives by movement. It feeds on replaying yesterday and rehearsing tomorrow. The moment silence appears, the mind becomes afraid. Silence feels like death to the false self you created over time. So you keep running. You call it ambition. You call it responsibility. You call it staying busy. But deep inside, exhaustion grows. Not physical exhaustion, soul exhaustion, the kind that sleep cannot repair. One day, usually in an ordinary moment, something cracks open. Maybe while staring at the ceiling at 2 a.m., maybe during a lonely walk, maybe after heartbreak, failure, or success that strangely felt empty. You suddenly realize, I have been listening to my mind for so long that I forgot I am the one hearing it. And that realization changes everything. Because the voice in your head is not you. The anxious voice is not you. The angry voice is not you. The fearful voice is not you. Those voices are weather passing through awareness. You are the sky. Read that again slowly. You are not the storm. You are the space holding the storm. The moment you truly understand this, suffering begins to loosen its grip. Not because life becomes perfect, but because you stop turning every painful thought into your identity. A thought says, I am not enough. Before, you believed it immediately. Now you simply notice it. A thought says, something bad will happen. Before, fear controlled your body. Now you observe fear moving through you like wind through trees. This is freedom. Not controlling thoughts, not fighting thoughts, not escaping thoughts. Watching them without becoming them. Most people never learn this because the world trains attention outward from childhood. Look better, earn more, compete harder, prove yourself constantly. But peace does not appear when the world finally approves of you. Peace appears the moment you no longer need permission to feel complete. Right now, as you read these words, pause for 3 seconds. Do nothing. Just notice the fact that you are aware. That awareness has always been there. Before every emotion, before every fear, before every story about yourself. Awareness is untouched by chaos. Even when your mind is loud, awareness remains silent beneath it, like the ocean beneath crashing waves. This is why some people can sit alone in a quiet room and feel deeply alive, while others sit in luxury and feel empty. One person has discovered presence. The other has only collected distractions. Presence is not something you create. It is what remains when you stop escaping the moment you are in. Listen carefully. Life is not waiting somewhere in the future. Life is breathing right now, in the sound around you, in your heartbeat, in this inhale, in this sentence, in this moment that will never exist again. The tragedy of human life is not death. It is missing the miracle of being alive because the mind was somewhere else. One day, your favorite song will play for the last time. One day, you will look at the sky for the last time. One day, someone you love will say your name for the final time. And most people will never realize how sacred those moments were until they are gone. So wake up now. Not tomorrow. Not after healing completely. Not after becoming successful. Not after becoming fearless. Now, sit with this moment exactly as it is, and you may discover something astonishing. The peace you were searching for was never hiding from you. You were only hiding from it. Part 1. The room inside you. At some point in life, every human being enters a silent war. Not with the world, with themselves. It usually begins unnoticed. A person wakes up one morning feeling strangely disconnected from their own life. The same routine, the same conversations, the same dreams repeated so many times they no longer feel alive. People call this adulthood. But deep inside, there must be more than this. Most ignore the whisper. They drown it with noise, music, notifications, endless scrolling, endless working, endless talking, endless proving. Because silence is dangerous. Silence forces a person to meet themselves without distraction. And very few people know who they are beneath distraction. Imagine sitting alone in a dark room with no phone, no television, no conversation, and no task to complete. At first, it feels peaceful, then uncomfortable, then unbearable. Thoughts begin crawling out of hidden corners. Old regrets, forgotten fears, embarrassing memories, imaginary futures, unspoken loneliness. The mind becomes loud when the world becomes quiet. This is why people fear stillness. Not because stillness is empty, because stillness reveals what noise was hiding. But here is the strange truth nobody teaches. Your thoughts are not attacking you. They are asking to be seen. Every fear inside you was once created to protect you. Every insecurity was built from a moment you felt unsafe. Every mask you wear was invented by a younger version of yourself trying to survive a world it did not understand. The angry person is often protecting sadness. The arrogant person is often protecting insecurity. The constantly busy person is often protecting emptiness. Human beings become actors without realizing it. A person enters a room and immediately performs a personality they think the world will accept. Different voice, different smile, different energy. And after years of performing, they forget the performance ever began. That is the real exhaustion people feel. Not physical tiredness, identity fatigue. The exhaustion of maintaining a version of yourself that was never fully real. One day, something unexpected happens. The performance cracks. Sometimes through heartbreak. Sometimes through failure. Sometimes through success that feels strangely hollow. And sometimes through a simple moment so ordinary it changes everything forever. A woman drinking coffee near a rainy window suddenly realizes she has not truly felt present in years. A man driving home from work notices he has been mentally absent from his own life. A teenager staring at the ceiling at midnight suddenly wonders why achievement never removes emptiness. These moments appear small from the outside. But internally, a door begins opening. For the first time, the person notices the distance between themselves and the voice in their head. And this changes everything. Because most humans believe they are the voice. The voice says, "You are failing," so they suffer. The voice says, you are behind everyone else. So anxiety grows. The voice says, you must become more to deserve peace. So the chase never ends. But one rare moment of awareness reveals something astonishing. The voice is being heard. And if it is being heard, who is listening? Sit with that question carefully. The listener is deeper than thought. The listener existed before your name, before your fears, before your social identity, before the world told you who to become. There is a quiet presence inside you that has watched your entire life unfold. It watched your childhood. It watched your heartbreaks. It watched every victory and every humiliation. And despite everything changing around it, that silent awareness remained unchanged. Most people never discover this because they spend their lives trying to improve the character instead of meeting the consciousness behind the character. But the moment you stop fighting yourself, a different kind of intelligence appears. Not mental intelligence, existential intelligence. The understanding that peace was never something to achieve. It was something buried beneath mental noise. Think about the ocean. On the surface, waves crash violently. Storms appear. Chaos moves endlessly. But deep beneath the surface, the ocean remains calm. Human consciousness works the same way. Your thoughts are surface waves. Your true nature is the depth beneath them. And depth cannot be disturbed by temporary weather. The problem is that most people live only on the surface of themselves, reacting, comparing, chasing, defending, performing. Meanwhile, an entire universe exists within them untouched. A silent room inside themselves they have not entered in years, or maybe ever. And the doorway to that room is not hidden in mountains, temples, or ancient books. It opens the moment you stop running from your own presence. Part 2. The addiction to becoming. Human beings are taught a dangerous idea from childhood. You are not enough yet. At first, the message sounds innocent. Study harder, work harder, improve yourself, become successful, become attractive, become important. The world rewards becoming. So people spend their entire lives chasing the next version of themselves, the next achievement, the next relationship, the next amount of money, the next transformation. And for a brief moment after each victory, they feel alive. Then the feeling fades, so the chase begins again. This cycle becomes invisible because society celebrates it. A person who constantly runs towards something is called ambitious, productive, motivated. But very few stop to ask, what happens if I spend my whole life chasing a future version of myself and never actually live now? The mind survives through incompleteness. It needs a problem to solve, a destination to reach, a future moment where everything will supposedly make sense. That future never arrives, because when tomorrow comes, the mind immediately creates another tomorrow. A man thinks, when I become rich, I will finally relax. He becomes rich. Then fear of losing money appears. A woman thinks, when someone truly loves me, I will feel whole. Love arrives. Then fear of abandonment appears. A student thinks, when I succeed, I will finally feel worthy. Success arrives. Then comparison appears. The mind always moves the finish line, not because something is wrong with you, because the mind was never designed to create lasting peace. It was designed to survive, and survival constantly searches for danger, lack, and uncertainty. This is why some people achieve everything they once dreamed about and still feel restless at night. Externally successful, internally starving. They upgraded their lifestyle but never met themselves. Look carefully at modern life. People wake up and immediately consume information before feeling their own existence. Phone screens before sunlight. Notifications before breathing. Noise before awareness. Human attention has become a marketplace. Every app fights to capture the mind because attention is power. And slowly, people lose the ability to simply be. Even moments of rest become uncomfortable. A person sits quietly for 5 minutes and instantly reaches for stimulation. Music, messages, videos, anything to avoid the raw simplicity of presence. But presence is where life actually happens, not inside mental commentary. Think about the last truly peaceful moment you experienced. Maybe it happened unexpectedly, watching rain hit a window, listening to waves at night, laughing so deeply you forgot yourself completely, walking beneath trees while the world became strangely quiet. In those moments, something disappeared. Psychological time. The endless mental movement between past and future paused for a second, and in that pause, life felt real again. This is why people secretly crave nature. Nature does not rush. The ocean does not compare itself. Mountains do not seek validation. Trees do not suffer from identity crises. Nature exists fully as itself, and when humans reconnect with nature, they briefly reconnect with the part of themselves untouched by mental noise. But modern culture teaches the opposite. It teaches people to become brands instead of beings. Curated personalities, filtered emotions, performances designed for approval. A person can now receive thousands of likes while feeling completely alone inside. Because attention is not connection, and achievement is not fulfillment. Fulfillment appears when inner resistance disappears, when you stop arguing with the present moment. Most suffering comes from resisting reality mentally. Traffic happens, rain happens, rejection happens, pain happens. But the mind adds a second layer. This should not be happening. And that resistance multiplies suffering. Notice something strange. A child can become fascinated by a small insect for 10 minutes without boredom. An adult cannot sit quietly for 2 minutes without mental agitation. Why? Because children still experience life directly. Adults mostly experience life through thought. A child sees a sunset. An adult thinks about tomorrow while looking at the sunset. A child listens to birds. An adult listens to anxiety while birds sing in the background. The tragedy is not that humans lose happiness. It is that they lose contact with reality itself. They stop inhabiting moments fully. Instead, they mentally live somewhere else almost all the time. And eventually, they wake up wondering where life went. Years passed. Faces changed. Bodies aged. Opportunities disappeared. But they were never fully there for any of it. Not because they were bad people, because nobody taught them the difference between living and mentally escaping life. Here is the truth few realize. You do not need to become someone else to experience peace. You only need to stop abandoning yourself in every moment. Because the greatest addiction in human history is not pleasure. It is becoming. Part 3. The Prison of Invisible Stories. Every human being carries invisible stories. Stories about who they are. Stories about what life means. Stories about what is possible. Stories about love, failure, success, fear, and worth. Most people never question these stories because they have repeated them for so long that they feel like truth. But a story repeated 1,000 times is still a story. A man who was ignored as a child may unconsciously spend his entire adult life trying to prove he matters. A woman betrayed once may secretly expect betrayal everywhere she goes. A person who failed publicly may begin seeing themselves as permanently broken. The mind records emotional pain like a scar written in language. And over time, people stop seeing reality directly. They only see reality through the stories they carry. Imagine two people walking through the same storm. One feels alive listening to the rain. The other feels cursed by bad luck. Same storm, different inner world. This is why two people can experience the same event and leave with completely different lives afterward. Reality matters, but interpretation shapes suffering. The human mind is a storyteller by nature. It constantly explains life. This happened because they think this about me. My future will probably become. Most of these stories are invented automatically, yet people believe them instantly. That belief creates emotional prisons. A single thought repeated long enough becomes identity. I am unlovable. I always fail. People cannot be trusted. I missed my chance. These sentences quietly shape behavior for years. A person who believes they are unworthy may sabotage happiness the moment it appears. Not consciously, but because familiar pain feels safer than unfamiliar peace. Humans often choose familiar suffering over unknown freedom. Why? Because identity becomes addictive, even painful identities. The victim identity, the superior identity, the broken identity, the perfect identity. People protect identities because they fear emptiness beneath them. But what if emptiness is not something to fear? What if beneath identity there is freedom? Think about actors in a movie. An actor may play a villain for years, but eventually the costume comes off. Human beings forget to remove psychological costumes. Some people wear anger for so long they think anger is personality. Some wear sadness until sadness feels permanent. Some wear confidence while secretly terrified inside. The world becomes a theater filled with exhausted performers, and the performance grows heavier with time. Because false identities require constant maintenance. You must defend them, feed them, protect them, prove them endlessly. That is why criticism hurts people so deeply. Not because words are powerful, because words threaten the character they built. A person insults your appearance. Immediately the mind reacts. Why? Because identity became attached to appearance. Someone questions your intelligence. Pain appears. Why? Because identity became attached to being right. The ego is not evil. It is simply fragile. It is the psychological image you try to protect, and fragile things fear everything. This fear controls modern life more than people realize. Fear of rejection, fear of failure, fear of being ignored, fear of not mattering, fear of losing status, fear of not becoming enough. Underneath nearly every human behavior is the desire to strengthen identity or protect it from collapse. But there is a problem. No identity remains stable forever. Youth fades, bodies change, money disappears, relationships transform, public opinion shifts overnight. If your peace depends on temporary things remaining permanent, anxiety becomes unavoidable. This is why external success without inner awareness creates fragile happiness. The deeper your identity attaches to temporary forms, the more fear controls your life. Yet something extraordinary happens when you begin observing your stories instead of automatically believing them. Distance appears. You notice thoughts arriving and leaving like passing strangers. You realize emotions move like weather systems. Nothing stays forever. Not joy, not sadness, not fear, not excitement. Everything moves, everything changes. And suddenly, a powerful question emerges. If all these thoughts, emotions, and identities keep changing, what is the part of me that notices the change? That question opens a door most people never enter. Because the observer inside you is different from the stories. The observer does not panic. It does not compete. It does not need applause. It simply witnesses, quietly, constantly, like the moon watching waves rise and fall beneath it. The moment you connect with that deeper awareness, life changes in a subtle but revolutionary way. You stop treating every thought as an emergency. You stop worshiping every emotion. You stop confusing mental noise with truth. And for the first time, you begin living outside the prison of invisible stories. Not because the stories vanish completely, but because you finally realize you are the author, not the sentence. Part 4. The voice that never sleeps. There is a voice inside most people that never truly rests. It comments on everything. While you walk, it speaks. While you eat, it judges. While you try to sleep, it remembers. While you smile, it compares. While you dream, it worries. For many people, this voice has become so normal they no longer notice it. They think the voice is themselves. But imagine living beside someone who criticized, feared, doubted, compared, and replayed painful memories all day without stopping. You would call that exhausting. Yet millions live with this internal noise every moment of their lives. The strange part is that the voice rarely speaks about what is actually happening now. It lives in imaginary worlds, replaying the past, rehearsing the future, creating conversations that never happen, inventing disasters that never arrive. The mind becomes a cinema projecting endless mental movies onto reality. And slowly, people stop seeing life directly. A person sits at dinner with loved ones while mentally arguing with someone who is not even there. A student studies while imagining future failure. A man walks through a beautiful morning while reliving a mistake from 10 years ago. The body exists here. The mind exists elsewhere. And where attention goes, life goes. This explains why so many people feel disconnected from reality itself. They are physically alive, but psychologically absent. One of the greatest illusions humans believe is this: if I think enough, I will finally feel safe. So the mind keeps analyzing, keeps predicting, keeps searching for certainty. But certainty never arrives, because life itself is uncertain. No amount of thinking can fully protect you from change, loss, or the unknown. The mind fears this deeply. It wants guarantees: permanent security, permanent approval, permanent control. But existence moves like water, not stone. Everything changes, and fighting change creates suffering. Look at how much energy people spend trying to control things beyond their reach. Other people's opinions, the future, aging, outcomes, time, even emotions, especially emotions. Modern culture trains people to escape uncomfortable feelings immediately. Sadness appears, distract yourself. Loneliness appears, consume something. Fear appears, suppress it. But emotions ignored do not disappear. They wait, stored quietly in the body. Eventually, the body begins speaking what the mind refuses to hear. Tension, exhaustion, restlessness, sleepless nights. A person says, "I do not know why I feel empty." But emptiness often comes from disconnection. Disconnection from the body, from presence, from truth, from silence. Most humans live almost entirely inside mental activity and rarely inhabit their actual physical experience. Right now, feel your breathing. Not think about it, feel it. Notice how quickly the mind tries escaping the simplicity of this moment. The mind craves stimulation because stillness exposes its lack of control. But beneath the noise exists something powerful: awareness without commentary. A state where you experience life directly instead of through endless interpretation. Athletes sometimes enter this during intense performance. Artists enter it while creating. Musicians enter it while playing. People in love sometimes enter it naturally. Time disappears. Thought fades. Only presence remains. In those moments, humans feel deeply alive because they temporarily escape psychological noise. The irony is that people spend years searching for peace while constantly feeding the very mechanism that destroys peace. Endless information, endless comparison, endless distraction. The modern world profits from fractured attention. A peaceful human being is difficult to manipulate. Someone fully present does not constantly need validation, stimulation, or escape. That kind of presence threatens systems built on insecurity. So society teaches people to chase more instead of becoming aware. More productivity, more status, more followers, more consumption. Meanwhile, the inner voice grows louder from neglect. But the voice weakens the moment it is observed consciously. Not fought, observed. The instant you notice a thought, a small separation appears between awareness and mental activity. You realize a thought is happening instead of this thought is me. That shift changes everything because awareness is naturally calm. Thought is naturally restless. When you stop identifying with every mental movement, silence slowly returns. Not complete silence, but enough space to breathe internally again. Enough space to hear life beneath mental static. The goal is not to destroy thought. Thought is useful. The goal is to stop becoming imprisoned by it, to use the mind without being consumed by it, to experience this moment before thought labels it, to rediscover the rare beauty of simply being alive. Because beneath the endless voice in your head, another presence has been waiting quietly your entire life. A presence that does not need to become anything to feel complete. Part 5. The loneliness hidden inside modern life. Never in human history have people been so connected and so emotionally alone. Millions speak every day without truly being heard. Millions post their lives online while secretly feeling invisible. A person can receive endless messages and still go to sleep with an aching emptiness inside them. Because communication is not the same as connection. Modern life created a strange illusion of closeness. People know each other's photos, their updates, their opinions, their filtered personalities. But very few know each other's silence. Very few know what someone fears at 3 a.m. Very few know the weight another person quietly carries behind their smile. Human beings learned how to broadcast themselves, but forgot how to reveal themselves. Real connection requires vulnerability, and vulnerability terrifies the ego. The ego wants admiration, not exposure. It wants control, not honesty. So people build polished identities instead of authentic relationships. A person says, I'm fine, even while collapsing internally. Someone laughs loudly in public while privately fighting despair. Another person becomes the strong one because they fear nobody will love the real version of them. And slowly, entire lives become performances designed to avoid rejection. This is the hidden loneliness most people never talk about. The loneliness of being emotionally unseen. Not physically alone, psychologically unknown. Imagine wearing armor every day for years. Eventually, the armor becomes heavy, but removing it feels dangerous. This is how many humans experience identity. They protect an image so carefully that nobody ever truly meets them. And because nobody meets the real self, love never fully reaches them either. Only the performance gets loved. That creates deep emotional hunger. People begin chasing attention because attention feels temporarily similar to love. But attention fades quickly. And when silence returns, emptiness returns with it. Look closely at society. Many addictions are not about pleasure. They are about escape from emotional isolation. Scrolling endlessly, overworking constantly, obsessing over status, needing validation, staying busy every second. The external activity distracts from internal disconnection. But distraction cannot nourish the soul. Only presence can. The strange thing about loneliness is that it does not disappear simply because other people are around. Some feel loneliest in crowded rooms. Because true connection begins internally first. If you are disconnected from yourself, relationships become fragile attempts to fill inner emptiness. Then love becomes dependency. Friendship becomes validation. Connection becomes emotional survival. This creates suffering because no human being can permanently complete another person. People can share love, deepen life, support healing, but they cannot become your missing self. That is too heavy for any relationship to carry. Many relationships collapse not from lack of love, but from unconscious expectations. One person silently says, "Please remove my loneliness." The other silently says the same thing. Two incomplete people searching for completion through each other often create emotional chaos instead of peace. Real love begins differently. It begins when a person no longer fears being alone with themselves. Because solitude and loneliness are not the same thing. Loneliness says, "Something is missing." Solitude says, "I am enough even in silence." There is enormous power in learning to sit peacefully with your own existence, to walk alone without needing distraction, to eat without constantly reaching for stimulation, to exist without escaping yourself. At first, this feels uncomfortable. Then healing begins. Because beneath loneliness often lies unresolved separation from your own inner world. Most people know how to observe others. Very few know how to observe themselves compassionately. Instead, they attack themselves internally all day, comparing, judging, pressuring, insulting their own minds without noticing it, and then they wonder why peace feels distant. But imagine if you treated yourself the way the ocean treats rain, without resistance, without judgment, allowing emotions to arrive and leave naturally. That inner gentleness changes everything. A person who becomes deeply connected to themselves no longer begs the world for constant emotional proof. They still love, still care, still connect deeply, but they no longer disappear inside relationships. They remain rooted within themselves. And paradoxically, this creates stronger connection with others. Because authenticity attracts authenticity. People feel safe around someone who is real. Not perfect, real. Someone no longer hiding behind emotional armor. Someone no longer pretending to have life completely figured out. Someone present enough to truly listen. In a world addicted to performance, presence becomes rare, and rare things become powerful. The truth is this: most humans are not starving for attention. They are starving for genuine presence, someone who sees them beyond identity, beyond success, beyond masks. And perhaps the deepest form of healing is discovering that the presence you searched for in others has quietly existed within you all along. Part 6. The illusion of time. Most people are physically alive in one moment, but mentally trapped in another. Their bodies move through today, while their minds remain chained to yesterday or obsessed with tomorrow. This invisible habit steals entire lives. A person drinks coffee while replaying an argument from years ago. Someone sits beside family while worrying about problems that have not even happened yet. Another person finally reaches a dream they spent years chasing, only to realize they were too mentally distracted to experience it fully. Human beings miss life while thinking about life. This is the tragedy. Not pain, not failure, absence. The mind treats time psychologically. It constantly drags the past into the present and projects fear into the future. And because of this, many people never truly arrive anywhere internally, even during moments that should feel beautiful. A sunset becomes a background image for overthinking. A conversation becomes interrupted by internal noise. A vacation becomes anxiety transported to another location. People believe external change will create inner peace. New city, new relationship, new success, new beginning. But wherever the mind goes, psychological suffering follows unless awareness interrupts it. The future has become humanity's favorite escape route. Once I achieve this, once I heal, once life becomes easier, then peace will come. But peace postponed becomes peace denied, because the mind always invents another condition, another obstacle, another future requirement for happiness. This creates a strange addiction to anticipation. People become emotionally dependent on the next thing, the next purchase, the next message, the next opportunity, the next chapter. And slowly, the present moment begins feeling like a temporary waiting room instead of life itself. Think carefully about this. Your entire existence only happens now. Not yesterday, not tomorrow. Every experience you have ever had occurred in the present moment. Even memories happen now as thoughts. Even future imagination happens now mentally. Life never enters the future. It only arrives as the present. Yet most humans psychologically resist the present almost constantly. Why? Because the present removes mental control. The past can be rewritten endlessly in thought. The future can be imagined endlessly in thought. But the present demands direct experience. And direct experience feels vulnerable. In the present, there is nowhere to hide. You either feel life or escape it mentally. Observe how uncomfortable silence has become for modern society. People stand in elevators reaching instantly for phones, sit in restaurants unable to exist without stimulation, walk through beautiful streets without noticing anything around them. Attention has become fragmented, and fragmented attention creates fragmented living. A person cannot experience deep peace while mentally scattered in 1,000 directions. Presence requires returning fully to where you are. Not philosophically, Actually, feel your breathing. Notice the temperature around your skin. Listen to sounds without naming them. Watch how quickly the mind tries leaving this moment. That restlessness reveals how addicted humans have become to psychological movement. The mind fears stillness because stillness exposes its illusions. In stillness, many realize something shocking. Most of their suffering was created mentally, not physically. The body exists here safely, but the mind exists inside imaginary scenarios. This does not mean pain is unreal. Pain is real. Loss is real. Grief is real. But psychological suffering multiplies when the mind resists reality instead of experiencing it directly. Imagine carrying a heavy stone. Painful, yes. Now imagine mentally screaming the entire time, "This should not exist." The resistance creates additional suffering beyond the weight itself. Humans often suffer twice. First, from life, then from mental resistance to life. The present moment is not always comfortable, but it is almost always more manageable than the catastrophic stories created by thought. Most fears live in imagination, not immediate reality. Right now, in this exact second, pause. Look around slowly. Notice how life is happening without needing your constant mental commentary. The air moves, your heart beats, sounds rise and disappear. Existence unfolds naturally. For one brief moment, stop narrating reality internally. Just experience it. This simple awareness contains more peace than years of compulsive mental chasing. Because freedom is not found in controlling time. It is found in fully inhabiting the only moment that truly exists. Now, and now, and now again. Life is not a destination waiting somewhere ahead of you. Life is the moment you finally stop leaving. Part 7. The fear of being nobody. Hidden beneath many human ambitions is a fear rarely spoken aloud. The fear of being nobody. Not unsuccessful, not unattractive, not poor. Invisible, insignificant, forgettable. This fear quietly shapes modern life more than most realize. People chase recognition not only for achievement, but for psychological survival. To feel seen, to feel important, to feel real. A person becomes obsessed with status because deep inside they fear worthlessness. Another constantly posts online because silence feels like disappearance. Someone else works endlessly because stopping would force them to face the emptiness beneath achievement. The world teaches humans to build identity through external labels. Career, money, popularity, beauty, intelligence, influence. And once identity attaches to these things, fear becomes inevitable. Because every external form can change or vanish. Youth fades, attention shifts, success collapses. Opinions change overnight. The ego senses this instability constantly. That is why many people cannot relax even after reaching success. The mind whispers, "What if I lose it?" So achievement stops feeling like freedom and becomes maintenance. A prison decorated with rewards. Look carefully at fame. Millions dream about being known by everyone. Yet many famous people secretly suffer from enormous loneliness and anxiety. Why? Because attention cannot answer existential emptiness. Crowds may recognize your image while nobody truly knows your soul. External visibility does not guarantee inner fulfillment. In fact, the stronger the public identity becomes, the more terrifying authenticity can feel. Because now there is more to protect, more to lose, more performance to maintain. Human beings become trapped inside characters they created themselves. The successful one, the strong one, the intelligent one, the perfect one. And eventually they fear disappointing the world by revealing ordinary humanity. But beneath all these identities exists a simple truth. You were valuable before anyone noticed you, before achievement, before applause, before titles, before comparison. A flower does not become worthy because someone compliments it. A mountain does not need validation to exist magnificently. Nature exists without self-doubt. Humans suffer because they mentally measure their existence constantly. Am I enough? Am I ahead? Do I matter more now? How do others see me? Comparison has become one of the deepest addictions of the modern mind, and social media intensified it beyond anything previous generations experienced. People no longer compare themselves to neighbors. They compare themselves to millions. Curated beauty, curated success, curated lifestyles. A person sees endless images of perfection while privately living through ordinary human struggles. This creates psychological distortion. People begin believing everyone else is living fully while they alone feel lost inside. But behind every polished image exists invisible human pain. Fear, confusion, loneliness, insecurity. Even those who appear most confident often secretly fear not being enough, because the ego can never feel permanently complete. It survives through deficiency. It always needs another achievement to maintain identity, another victory, another proof of worth. But there is a different way to live, a quieter way, one where your existence no longer depends on constant validation. This begins when you stop asking, "How can I become important?" and begin asking, "How can I become present?" Present dissolves the obsession with self-image, because in true presence there is no performer, only awareness experiencing life directly. Think about moments when you felt most alive, maybe while laughing uncontrollably, watching stars in silence, creating something beautiful, listening deeply to music. During those moments, self-consciousness disappeared. You were not thinking about your image. You were simply existing fully. That fullness is your natural state beneath psychological noise. Children experience this naturally before identity becomes heavy. A child dancing alone does not ask, "Do I look impressive?" A child becomes completely absorbed in the moment itself. This is why children radiate aliveness. They have not fully entered the prison of self-image yet. As adults, many spend decades trying to recover that lost freedom. Not childishness, aliveness. The ability to exist without constant self-measurement. Here is the paradox. The more desperately a person tries to become somebody, the further they often drift from themselves. Because authenticity cannot survive endless performance. And eventually, exhaustion appears. Not from work alone, from pretending. From maintaining identities that no longer feel true. Real peace begins when you no longer need every person to confirm your value. When silence no longer feels like invisibility. When being alone no longer feels like being nothing. Because beneath all the roles you play, there is a presence within you, untouched by success or failure, untouched by praise or criticism, untouched by the world's changing opinions. And that presence does not need to become somebody. It already is. Part 8. When the world becomes too loud. There comes a moment in many lives when the noise becomes unbearable. Not only external noise, internal noise, the endless thinking, the pressure to keep up, the invisible competition, the emotional exhaustion hidden beneath daily routines. A person wakes up tired before the day even begins. Not because the body lacks sleep, because the soul lacks silence. Modern life moves faster than the human nervous system was designed to handle. Thousands of images every day, endless opinions, endless information, endless urgency. People absorb more stimulation in 1 week than ancient humans experienced in months. And the mind never fully rests. Even moments meant for recovery become filled with scrolling, comparing, reacting, consuming. The brain stays awake long after the body becomes exhausted. This creates a strange emptiness. A person may be constantly entertained while internally disconnected from life itself. Because stimulation and meaning are not the same thing. One excites the mind temporarily, the other nourishes the spirit deeply. But meaning requires presence, and presence cannot survive constant noise. Look at how rare genuine silence has become. True silence. No music, no notifications, no conversations, no distractions. Just existence. For many people, silence now feels uncomfortable because they immediately meet themselves there, and what they discover can feel frightening. Unprocessed grief, hidden anxiety, loneliness, fear of uncertainty, emotional wounds ignored for years. The louder the world becomes, the easier it is to avoid inner truth. But avoided emotions do not disappear. They accumulate quietly, stored beneath the surface like pressure building underground. Eventually, the pressure emerges somehow. Burnout, emotional numbness, sudden anger, panic attacks, depression, or a deep sense that life has lost its color. Many people are not physically sick. They are spiritually overwhelmed. Their attention has been pulled in so many directions that they no longer feel rooted inside themselves. Imagine a lake during a storm. When the surface shakes constantly, the water cannot reflect clearly. Human awareness works the same way. A restless mind distorts reality. People begin reacting automatically instead of consciously. Someone sends a message, anxiety appears instantly. A problem happens, panic takes over immediately. Criticism arrives, identity collapses for hours or days. The nervous system never fully relaxes. Humans become trapped in survival mode while living ordinary lives. And survival mode changes perception. When the mind feels threatened constantly, even peaceful moments become difficult to enjoy. A beautiful evening feels temporary. Love feels fragile. Success feels unsafe. Because internally, the body still expects danger. This is why healing is not only mental, it is physical. The body remembers what the mind tries to forget. A person who lived through years of emotional stress may become addicted to tension without realizing it. Stillness feels unnatural. Peace feels suspicious. Chaos feels familiar. Many unknowingly recreate stress because their nervous system became attached to intensity. This is one reason people struggle to slow down. If they stop moving, they finally feel everything they escaped through busyness. But eventually, life forces stillness somehow. A heartbreak, an illness, a loss, an ending. And suddenly, the distractions lose power. The person sits alone with themselves again. At first, this can feel painful. But often, this is where transformation truly begins. Not when life becomes louder, when it becomes quiet enough to hear your inner world honestly. Healing rarely arrives dramatically. It begins subtly. A deeper breath, a slower morning, a walk without headphones, a moment of watching sunlight without reaching for a phone. Tiny moments of returning to yourself. Most people underestimate how powerful simple awareness can become. One conscious breath can interrupt panic. One silent moment can reveal mental chaos clearly. One act of stillness can reconnect a person to life again. The goal is not escaping the world forever. The world will always be noisy. The goal is creating an inner space the noise cannot control. A calm center within yourself. A place untouched by trends, pressure, fear, and endless stimulation. This inner stillness changes how you experience everything. Food tastes richer. Music feels deeper. Conversations become real again. Time slows down. Life regains texture. Not because the world changed, because your attention returned. And attention is where life lives. In the end, peace is not found by making the world completely silent. It is found by becoming deeply rooted within yourself while the world continues making noise around you. Part 9. The Art of Letting Go. Most human suffering does not come from life itself. It comes from holding too tightly, holding on to memories, holding on to expectations, holding on to identities, holding on to pain long after the moment has passed. The mind clings because it fears emptiness. It believes, if I let go, I will lose part of myself. So people carry emotional weight for years, sometimes entire lifetimes. A person replays betrayal endlessly, hoping understanding will erase the pain. Another carries guilt like a permanent punishment. Someone else cannot release an old version of themselves that no longer exists. And slowly, the past becomes heavier than the present. But life never stops moving. Everything changes constantly. Bodies change. Relationships change. Dreams change. Even personalities transform over time. Trying to freeze life emotionally creates suffering because existence itself is movement. Look at nature. Trees release leaves without resistance. The ocean releases every wave instantly. Sunsets never try to hold the sky forever. Only humans cling mentally to what has already passed. And that clinging exhausts the heart. There is a hidden grief many people carry. The grief of who they thought they would become. At some point, reality looks different than imagined. Life turns unexpectedly. Dreams collapse. Relationships end. Paths disappear. And the mind whispers, "This was not supposed to happen." That resistance deepens pain, because acceptance is not weakness. Acceptance is the end of fighting reality internally. Many misunderstand letting go. They think it means forgetting, pretending nothing mattered, becoming emotionless. But true letting go is different. It means allowing life to move through you without becoming trapped inside you. You still remember, still care, still feel deeply, but you stop carrying yesterday into every tomorrow. Imagine holding a burning object in your hand. The longer you refuse to release it, the deeper the wound becomes. Many people do this psychologically. They grip old anger because anger creates temporary identity. They grip pain because pain feels familiar. They grip resentment because it creates the illusion of control. But resentment mostly poisons the person carrying it. Not the past, not the other person, you. There is enormous freedom in realizing you do not need to carry every emotional wound forever. You are allowed to outgrow suffering, allowed to evolve beyond old pain, allowed to stop reopening memories that no longer serve your life. Some people stay loyal to their wounds because healing feels unfamiliar. Without the pain, they no longer know who they are. This is why healing can feel frightening. It requires releasing identity. The abandoned person, the victim, the broken one, the angry one. The mind often prefers familiar pain over unknown freedom. But freedom begins the moment you stop defining yourself by what hurt you. Your scars may shape your wisdom, but they do not have to become your prison. One of the deepest forms of letting go is forgiving yourself. Many humans secretly punish themselves for years. For mistakes, for lost opportunities, for words spoken in pain, for becoming someone they no longer recognize. But guilt cannot change the past. It only steals energy from the present. Growth means allowing yourself to become new. Even after failure, even after darkness, even after becoming lost. Think about the sky after a storm. The storm may leave traces behind, but the sky itself remains open. Human consciousness is the same. Pain passes through you, but it is not the entirety of you. The problem is that many people build homes inside temporary suffering. They decorate sadness mentally, repeat painful stories constantly, strengthen emotional wounds through endless identification. And eventually, suffering becomes identity instead of experience. But emotions are visitors, not permanent residents. Let them arrive. Let them speak. Then let them leave. Nothing stays forever. Not happiness, not heartbreak, not fear, not grief. Everything moves. The moment you stop resisting this truth, life softens internally. You begin flowing instead of fighting, breathing instead of bracing, living instead of clinging. And strangely, when you stop desperately holding on to life, you finally begin experiencing it fully. Because open hands can receive what closed fists cannot. The heart heals the same way nature heals. Slowly, quietly, without forcing. One season at a time. Part 10. The Doorway Back to Life. Most people believe awakening is something dramatic, a lightning strike of understanding, a mystical experience, a sudden transformation where fear disappears forever. But real awakening is usually much quieter. It begins the moment you truly notice your life while living it, not later, now. A person washing dishes suddenly becomes aware of warm water touching their hands. Someone walking at night notices the sound of wind moving through trees. A tired man sitting alone in his car after work suddenly feels the silence instead of escaping it. Tiny moments, almost invisible. Yet something profound changes inside them. For one brief second, thought loosens its grip, and reality becomes alive again. This is the doorway most people overlook, because they are searching for extraordinary experiences while ignoring ordinary presence. But life hides inside ordinary moments. Not only in milestones, not only in achievements, not only in dramatic memories. The miracle is here constantly, in breathing, in light falling across a room, in laughter appearing unexpectedly, in music touching something wordless inside you, in simply existing at all. Humans become blind to these things because familiarity dulls attention. People stop seeing what surrounds them daily, stop hearing fully, stop feeling deeply. They move through existence half awake, trapped inside mental repetition. Then one day, years disappear, and they wonder where life went. Life went where attention never arrived. This is why awareness matters more than achievement. A person can own everything and still miss existence entirely. Another can sit quietly beneath the sky and feel deeply fulfilled. Because fulfillment is not created by accumulation, it is created by contact with reality. True presence changes the quality of everything. Food tastes richer, conversations become meaningful, time slows naturally. Even ordinary moments gain depth. Why? Because the mind is no longer standing between you and life, constantly translating reality into judgment, comparison, fear, or memory. You finally experience instead of mentally narrating experience. This does not mean problems disappear. Life still contains pain. Loss still arrives. People still leave. Bodies still age. But suffering changes when resistance disappears. A tree bends during storms because resistance would break it. Humans suffer deeply because they mentally resist change, while life continues changing anyway. The present moment is not asking you to become perfect. It is asking you to arrive fully. That is all. Many people delay living because they believe they must first heal completely, become confident enough, successful enough, loved enough, certain enough. But life does not wait for psychological perfection. It unfolds now, in imperfect moments, messy moments, ordinary moments. And those moments become your entire existence eventually. One day, the people you love will become memories. One day, your current struggles will feel distant. One day, this version of you will no longer exist. Everything temporary becomes precious the moment you truly see its impermanence. This realization is not depressing. It is awakening. Because impermanence gives life intensity and beauty. A song matters because it ends. A sunset matters because it fades. A human life matters because it is brief. Imagine if flowers never died. Would anyone stop to admire them? Humans waste enormous amounts of life assuming there will always be more time, more conversations, more chances, more tomorrows. But existence guarantees nothing except this moment. Right here, right now. This breath, this heartbeat, this fleeting experience of being conscious inside a living universe. And perhaps that is enough. Perhaps life was never meant to be conquered, solved, or controlled completely. Perhaps it was meant to be experienced deeply, felt honestly, lived presently. There is a version of you beneath all the noise, fear, identity, and mental exhaustion. A quieter self, a deeper self, one untouched by comparison, untouched by failure, untouched by the world's endless demands. That self does not need to prove its worth. It already belongs to existence naturally. The moment you stop running endlessly toward another version of yourself, you begin returning home internally. And strangely, nothing external may change at first. You may still wake up in the same room, still live the same life, still carry responsibilities and uncertainty. But your relationship with existence transforms completely. Because now you are no longer sleepwalking through moments. You are inside them, aware, present, alive. And maybe that is what freedom truly is. Not escaping life, but finally being here for it. Part 11. The beautiful weight of being human. There is a painful illusion many people carry quietly, that they must become emotionally invincible to deserve peace. So they hide their sadness, hide their fear, hide their confusion, hide their tenderness. They try becoming untouchable, but the more untouchable a person becomes, the further they drift from their own humanity. The truth is that being human was never meant to feel perfect all the time. You were never designed to exist without grief, uncertainty, or emotional storms. Even the ocean has waves. Even the sky has darkness. Why should a human life be different? Yet modern culture worships emotional performance. People feel pressured to appear constantly confident, productive, successful, and emotionally stable. And slowly, vulnerability becomes associated with weakness. But vulnerability is not weakness. It is openness to existence itself, the ability to feel deeply without shutting down internally. Think about the moments that changed your life most profoundly. Rarely were they moments of perfection. Usually they were moments when your heart cracked open. Loss, love, failure, longing, goodbye. Moments where life stripped away illusion and revealed something real beneath it. Pain often awakens depth, not because suffering is beautiful, but because suffering destroys false certainty. A person who has experienced heartbreak deeply may finally understand compassion. Someone who has faced loss may stop wasting time on meaningless things. A human being brought to emotional exhaustion may finally stop pretending. Sometimes breaking becomes the beginning of honesty. The problem is not pain itself. The problem is how humans relate to pain. Most either drown inside it or spend their lives escaping it. Very few learn how to sit beside pain without becoming consumed by it. Imagine holding sadness gently instead of fighting it, allowing grief to move through you naturally, listening to fear without obeying it blindly. This changes emotional experience completely, because emotions are energy in motion. When resisted, they become trapped. When allowed consciously, they move. This is why crying can feel cleansing, why honest conversation can feel healing, why silence can sometimes release years of emotional pressure. The body longs to process what the mind suppresses. But many people fear emotional honesty because they believe, if I fully feel this, I may never recover. Yet humans are far more resilient than they realize. You have already survived versions of pain you once believed would destroy you, and still life continued. This does not mean suffering should be romanticized. No, pain can break people open brutally. But hidden inside suffering is often a doorway toward deeper awareness. Because pain interrupts unconscious living. It forces questions people normally avoid. What truly matters? What am I chasing? Who am I beneath my roles? What does it mean to live fully? People often awaken not through comfort, but through disruption. A person loses something they thought they needed for happiness, then slowly discovers they are still alive beneath the loss. And in that realization, a strange freedom appears. Human beings are stronger than the identities they build, stronger than temporary collapse, stronger than fear tells them. Look carefully at nature after destruction. Forests burn, and eventually new life emerges through ashes. Storms pass, and the sky opens again. Nature does not resist transformation. Humans suffer because they expect permanence in a world built from change. But perhaps transformation is not betrayal. Perhaps transformation is life itself. You are not meant to remain the same forever. Not emotionally, not mentally, not spiritually. Growth often feels like losing parts of yourself because old identities cannot survive new awareness. And that can feel lonely at first. A person begins changing internally, and suddenly old conversations feel empty. Old habits feel heavy. Old versions of success lose meaning. This confuses many people. They think something is wrong. But often, consciousness is simply evolving. Not upward toward perfection, inward toward truth. The deeper truth is this: you do not need to become emotionless to become peaceful. Peace is not numbness. Peace is the ability to remain present even while emotions move through you. To feel sadness without becoming despair. To feel fear without surrendering your entire identity to it. To experience joy without clinging desperately. To let life move naturally, like weather across an open sky. Being human is both beautiful and painful, fragile and miraculous, temporary and sacred. And perhaps healing begins the moment you stop trying to escape your humanity, and finally learn how to hold it gently. Part 12. The Silence. After becoming. There comes a strange moment in human life that very few are prepared for. The moment after becoming. After the achievement. After the dream. After the chase finally slows down. A person spends years climbing towards something they believed would complete them. Money, recognition, love, success, transformation. And when they finally arrive, silence. Not always disappointment. Something stranger. An emptiness success was never able to fill. This moment confuses many people because society teaches that fulfillment exists at the end of striving. So when striving ends temporarily, a hidden question appears. Why do I still feel incomplete? The answer is uncomfortable. Because no external achievement can permanently solve an internal disconnection from yourself. The mind always imagines arrival as salvation. If I reach this point, peace will finally stay. But peace cannot remain in a mind addicted to becoming. The chase simply changes form. One goal ends, another immediately appears. Humans become so attached to movement that stillness begins feeling threatening. Without problems to solve or identities to strengthen, many secretly feel lost. This is why some people unconsciously create chaos after achieving stability. The nervous system became addicted to psychological struggle. Stillness feels unfamiliar. Peace feels undeserved. So the mind searches for new tension automatically. Another conflict, another desire, another distraction. But eventually, exhaustion arrives. a deeper exhaustion than sleep can repair. The exhaustion of endlessly trying to become someone instead of inhabiting yourself fully. At this stage, many people face an invisible crossroads. One path continues outward endlessly. More achievement, more accumulation, more stimulation, more identity. The other path turns inward, toward awareness, toward stillness, toward the uncomfortable but liberating realization that nothing external was ever going to complete the inner search. This realization can feel frightening at first, because the ego survives through future identity. Without constant becoming, it asks, then who am I? That question scares many people because they spent their entire lives answering it externally. I am what I achieve. I am what others think of me. I am my status. I am my story. But stories change constantly. And if identity depends entirely on changing things, fear becomes permanent. There is another way to exist, a quieter way. One where your value no longer rises and falls with external circumstances. Where peace is no longer postponed until life becomes perfect. Where awareness itself becomes enough. This does not mean ambition disappears, or goals become meaningless. No, you can still create, still dream, still build beautiful things. But now those actions emerge from fullness instead of deficiency. That changes everything. A person acting from deficiency says, I need this to become whole. A person acting from presence says, I am already whole, and I choose to create anyway. One is survival, the other is expression. Many humans never experience this shift because they remain trapped inside psychological hunger their entire lives, always needing more to feel temporarily complete. But hunger without awareness has no ending. The mind consumes endlessly because it cannot recognize the peace already available beneath itself. Imagine standing in the ocean while searching desperately for water. This is how many people live spiritually, searching outside for what quietly exists within them already. Not happiness every second, not constant bliss, something deeper, an underlying sense of enoughness. Enoughness is revolutionary in a world built on insufficiency. Advertising survives by convincing people they are incomplete. Social comparison survives by convincing people they are behind. Fear survives by convincing people the future contains salvation or disaster. But presence interrupts all of it. Because in true presence, this moment becomes enough temporarily. Not perfect, enough. And from enoughness, gratitude appears naturally. Simple things regain beauty. Morning light through windows, a sincere conversation, rain against glass, breathing calmly at night. Ordinary moments stop feeling ordinary. The mind used to rush past them, searching for something bigger. Now, awareness rests inside them fully. This is why awakened people often appear calm without obvious reason. It is not because life became easier for them. It is because they stopped mentally abandoning life constantly. They arrived, not at a destination, at the present moment itself. And strangely, this arrival changes everything without changing anything externally. The world remains imperfect, uncertain, temporary, but internally, resistance softens. The endless chase loosens. And beneath all the noise that once controlled your existence, you finally hear something quietly waiting there all along. Your own presence. Still, alive, enough. Part 13. The people you become along the way. Human beings do not have only one self. They become many versions of themselves throughout life. There is the child who once believed the world was endless, the teenager trying desperately to belong, the adult learning how heavy responsibility can feel, the broken version who survived pain silently, the hopeful version who kept trying anyway. Inside every person exists an entire history of identities, and most people are haunted not by the past itself, but by old versions of themselves they never fully released. A man still carries the insecure boy he once was. A woman still hears the voice of someone who made her feel small years ago. An adult still reacts emotionally from wounds created in childhood. Time passes physically, but emotionally, many people remain frozen inside old moments. This explains why some reactions feel larger than the situation itself. A small rejection suddenly feels unbearable. A simple criticism creates enormous pain. A delayed message triggers panic. The present moment touches an old wound, and the nervous system reacts as if the past is happening again. Most humans do not realize how much of their life is shaped by unconscious memory. Not memory as facts, memory as emotional energy. The body remembers humiliation, fear, abandonment, loss, even when the conscious mind tries moving forward. This is why healing is not simply thinking positively. You cannot heal deep emotional wounds through denial. Real healing begins when awareness enters places within you that were abandoned long ago. The frightened parts, the ashamed parts, the grieving parts. Many people spend years trying to destroy these parts of themselves, but healing rarely comes through self-rejection. It comes through understanding. Imagine a child crying alone in darkness. Would screaming at the child create peace? Of course not. Yet many humans treat their inner pain this way. They attack themselves internally for feeling anxious, ashamed, sad, lost, weak. But wounded parts of you do not disappear through violence. They soften through awareness and compassion. One of the deepest transformations happens when you stop asking, "What is wrong with me?" and begin asking, "What happened to me that created this pain?" That question changes the entire relationship with yourself, because behind many destructive behaviors lies unhealed suffering. The angry person may carry years of hurt. The emotionally distant person may fear vulnerability deeply. The controlling person may secretly fear chaos. The people humans become are often survival responses to earlier pain. But survival identities eventually become prisons. The child who learned emotional numbness for protection may struggle to love openly as an adult. The person who survived through perfectionism may never feel worthy enough internally. The strong one may secretly feel exhausted from carrying everything alone. And eventually, life begins demanding honesty, not performance. Honesty. A person reaches a point where pretending becomes more painful than truth. This is where real transformation begins. Not by becoming someone entirely new, but by removing what was never truly you. The masks, the defenses, the endless emotional armor. At first, this feels terrifying, because identity, even painful identity, creates familiarity. People often cling to suffering simply because it feels known. But awareness slowly reveals something beautiful. You are not required to remain who survival forced you to become. You are allowed to change, allowed to soften, allowed to become peaceful after chaos, allowed to become open after heartbreak, allowed to become authentic after years of performance. Many people secretly believe healing means erasing the past completely. But healing is not erasure. It is integration. The painful chapters still exist. but they no longer control your entire story. Think about trees. Every year leaves fall away. Storms leave marks. Branches break. Yet the tree continues growing toward light anyway. Human beings are the same. Your scars become part of your shape, but they do not have to define your future completely. There is wisdom hidden inside surviving. Not superiority, not perfection. Wisdom. The kind that softens judgment, deepens compassion, reveals what truly matters. A person who has suffered consciously often becomes gentler with others because they understand invisible pain. They know how much people hide behind smiles, how many battles remain unseen. And perhaps that understanding is one of the most human forms of beauty. Not becoming flawless, but becoming real. The truth is that life will ask you to become many people before you discover who you truly are beneath all identities. And maybe growth is not about creating a perfect self. Maybe it is about returning, slowly, to the self that existed before fear taught you to hide. Part 14. The moment you stop escaping yourself. Most people spend their lives searching for an exit from pain, an exit from boredom, an exit from uncertainty, an exit from themselves. Some escape through entertainment, others through work, others through relationships, substances, achievement, constant movement, endless distraction. The method changes. The intention remains the same. Avoid feeling what exists underneath. Because beneath distraction, many people discover uncomfortable truths. Loneliness, fear, emptiness, regret, a quiet sadness they cannot explain. So the mind keeps moving constantly. One more video, one more conversation, one more goal, one more escape route. Modern society makes this easier than ever. A person can now avoid silence for years. The moment discomfort appears, distraction waits instantly in their pocket. And because of this, millions no longer know how to simply sit with themselves. Stillness feels unbearable. Not because stillness is painful, because stillness reveals pain already there. But something extraordinary happens the moment a person stops running internally. Not forever, just for one honest moment. They sit quietly. No performance, no stimulation, no pretending. And they finally feel the weight they have been carrying. At first, this can feel overwhelming. Years of ignored emotion rising suddenly. The mind may panic. The body may feel restless. Old memories may surface unexpectedly. This is why many people quit the process of self-awareness early. They mistake discomfort for failure. But discomfort is often the doorway. Imagine cleaning a room abandoned for years. Dust rises everywhere at first. That does not mean cleaning is wrong. It means truth is becoming visible. The same happens internally. Awareness reveals what distraction was hiding. And while painful initially, this revelation becomes freedom. Because what is seen clearly can finally begin healing. Humans suffer deeply from unconsciousness, not simply from pain. Pain becomes suffering when it remains unseen, denied, resisted, or repeated endlessly without awareness. A person abandoned emotionally as a child may spend adulthood chasing unavailable people unconsciously. Someone who felt powerless may become obsessed with control. Another who felt invisible may become addicted to attention. Without awareness, people repeat emotional patterns automatically, again and again and again. Different faces, same wound. But awareness interrupts repetition. The moment you consciously observe your patterns, a gap appears between you and unconscious behavior. You begin seeing yourself honestly, not cruelly, honestly. and honesty is transformative. Most people fear honesty because they believe truth will destroy them. But truth usually destroys illusion, not you. The illusion that endless achievement will remove emptiness. The illusion that approval creates self-worth. The illusion that distraction is happiness. The illusion that becoming someone else will finally bring peace. One of the greatest turning points in human life happens when a person realizes, I cannot escape myself permanently. Eventually, every distraction loses power temporarily. Every achievement becomes normal. Every pleasure fades, and the person meets themselves again in silence. This meeting can become either terrifying or sacred. Terrifying if you spent your life avoiding yourself. Sacred if you begin listening inwardly with compassion. Because beneath all the mental noise and emotional confusion, something astonishing waits quietly. Your raw existence. Not your identity, not your image, not your story. Your being itself. Simple, aware, alive. People search the world for meaning while disconnected from the direct experience of being alive. But meaning is often discovered through presence, not pursuit. Through contact with reality. The sound of rain, a deep breath after crying, the warmth of sunlight on skin, an honest conversation at midnight, a silent walk beneath stars. These moments feel powerful because they reconnect humans with existence directly instead of mentally. The mind constantly asks, what next? Presence asks, what is here now? And hidden inside that question is an entirely different way of living. Not rushing through moments toward imaginary completion, but inhabiting life deeply while it unfolds. This changes relationships, changes work, changes suffering, changes love. Because now you are no longer using life only as a means to reach another moment. You are inside life fully, aware of its fragility, aware of its beauty, aware that every ordinary moment is temporary, and temporary things become sacred when fully seen. Perhaps the reason humans suffer so deeply is not because life lacks beauty, but because they spend so much time elsewhere mentally that they rarely notice the beauty already surrounding them. The doorway was never hidden. It was simply covered by noise. And the moment you stop escaping yourself, the doorway opens quietly inside you. Part 15. The freedom hidden inside acceptance. Most people misunderstand acceptance. They think acceptance means giving up, settling, becoming passive, allowing life to defeat them. But true acceptance is something entirely different. It is the end of inner war. The moment you stop arguing with reality internally. Humans waste enormous energy resisting what already exists. This should not have happened. They should be different. My past should have gone another way. I should already be happier. The mind constantly fights reality because it imagines resistance creates control. But resistance usually creates suffering first. Imagine standing in the rain while screaming at the sky to stop. The storm continues. Now imagine simply opening your hand and feeling the rain without mental conflict. The situation remains the same, but suffering changes completely. This is the hidden power of acceptance. Acceptance does not remove pain. It removes unnecessary psychological struggle around pain. Many people spend years emotionally trapped inside one moment because they refuse to accept it happened. A breakup, a betrayal, a failure, a loss. Part of the mind keeps whispering, "No, this cannot be real." And because reality is rejected internally, healing cannot fully begin. Acceptance is the first breath after emotional drowning. Not approval, not weakness, clarity. A person says, "This hurts, but it is real." And in that honesty, something softens. Humans often believe peace will come once life becomes perfectly arranged. No uncertainty, no pain, no endings, no discomfort. But such a life does not exist. Everything alive changes. Relationships evolve, bodies age, people leave, dreams transform. Nothing remains fixed forever. The mind fears this deeply because it wants permanence in an impermanent world. But peace appears the moment you stop demanding eternity from temporary things. Look at nature. Autumn never apologizes for leaves falling. Night does not resist becoming morning. The ocean does not panic when waves disappear. Nature allows transformation naturally. Humans suffer because they mentally cling to every form life changes. And yet, some of the most beautiful moments in existence are temporary precisely because they end. A song, a sunset, childhood, a conversation with someone you love. Impermanence gives beauty urgency. Without endings, humans would never truly notice life. One day, you will never again hear certain voices, never again stand in certain places, never again be this exact version of yourself. That truth can either create fear or awaken gratitude. Because suddenly, ordinary moments become sacred. Washing dishes while someone you love laughs in another room. Walking home beneath cold air at night. Sitting quietly beside someone without needing words. Life hides inside these unnoticed moments. Acceptance opens the eyes to them. Not because everything becomes perfect, because resistance no longer blinds awareness constantly. People also resist themselves deeply. They resist their emotions, their scars, their humanity. A person feels sadness and immediately thinks, "I should not feel this." But emotions are not mistakes. They are experiences moving through consciousness. The more you fight emotion, the longer it often stays trapped. What you allow consciously can move. What you resist unconsciously lingers. Acceptance creates emotional flow. A person cries honestly and suddenly feels lighter afterward. Why? Because energy moved instead of remaining frozen inside. Healing often begins the moment judgment ends. When you stop attacking yourself for being human, for feeling lost sometimes, for grieving, for not having life completely figured out. No human being arrives at permanent certainty. Even those who appear confident still carry invisible fears. Everyone is learning existence while living it. Everyone. This realization creates compassion toward others, toward yourself. Acceptance also transforms relationships. You stop trying to control people into becoming your idea of who they should be. You allow them humanity, imperfection, complexity, freedom. And strangely, love becomes deeper when control disappears. Because control is fear disguised as attachment. Real love allows breathing space, allows truth, allows change. The deepest freedom humans can experience is not controlling life perfectly. It is becoming spacious enough internally to experience life without constant resistance. To let joy arrive fully, to let grief move naturally, to let endings end, to let beginnings begin, to stop gripping existence so tightly, because clenched hands cannot receive life fully, only open ones can. And maybe peace was never about controlling the waves. Maybe it was learning how to float. Part 16. The last illusion. There is one final illusion the human mind clings to more than any other. The illusion that life is somewhere else, somewhere ahead, somewhere better, somewhere waiting beyond this moment. The mind says, when everything finally comes together, then I will live fully. But everything never fully comes together. There will always be unfinished problems, unanswered questions, unexpected changes, moments of uncertainty. Life is not a puzzle that reaches perfect completion. It is movement, breathing, change unfolding endlessly. And those waiting for permanent certainty often wait forever. One day, a person suddenly notices how much time has passed. Years disappeared while they were preparing to live, preparing to relax, preparing to feel enough, preparing to become happy later. But later quietly became a lifetime. This realization arrives differently for everyone. Sometimes during illness, sometimes after losing someone, sometimes in complete silence on an ordinary evening. A person pauses and sees clearly, I was so busy chasing life that I forgot to experience it. That moment can feel heartbreaking, but it can also become awakening, because awareness changes the relationship with time completely. You begin understanding that life was never hiding in the future. It was hidden beneath distraction, beneath mental noise, beneath endless psychological movement. The miracle was always here, in breathing, in sunlight, in touch, in presence, in existence itself. Think about how many moments humans rush through automatically. Morning coffee, a parent's voice, the feeling of rain, the sound of laughter, the sight of someone you love falling asleep peacefully. These moments appear ordinary only because they happen often. But one day, every one of them ends. And suddenly, what once seemed small becomes priceless in memory. Humans rarely recognize sacredness while living inside it. Not because life lacks beauty, because familiarity blinds attention. Awareness restores wonder. A person truly present begins noticing life differently. The texture of silence, the depth inside music, the strange beauty of strangers walking through their own invisible worlds, the temporary miracle of consciousness itself. Even pain changes when deeply observed, not because pain becomes pleasant, because awareness reveals that every emotion moves eventually. Nothing stays forever. The mind says, this feeling will consume me forever. But life continues flowing. Storms pass. Wounds soften. People transform. Existence renews itself endlessly. This is why clinging creates suffering. Humans try freezing moments emotionally in a universe built from movement. But life cannot be possessed, only experienced. The deepest freedom comes when you stop treating existence like a problem to solve, and begin relating to it as something to experience consciously. Not perfectly, consciously. You stop asking constantly, how do I control everything? And begin asking, how do I stay present through everything? That shift changes suffering fundamentally. A conscious person still feels grief, still feels fear, still experiences uncertainty, but they no longer abandon themselves during difficult moments. They remain present, breathing, aware, open. This presence creates resilience deeper than mental control ever could. Because life becomes less frightening when you stop demanding guarantees from it. Look carefully at nature again. Birds sing without certainty. Flowers bloom without permanence. The sky changes every hour without resistance. Existence flows naturally when not interrupted by psychological fear constantly. Humans are part of nature too, but many forgot this. They became trapped inside thought, trapped inside identity, trapped inside the illusion that they must earn the right to feel alive. You do not need permission to exist fully. You do not need perfection before peace. You do not need complete certainty before presence. You only need awareness. Awareness of this breath, this heartbeat, this temporary life unfolding right now. Because one day, your entire existence will become memory. Not only for others, even for you. This version of reality will vanish forever. And perhaps that truth is not tragic. Perhaps it is what makes every moment infinitely valuable. The ending of life is what gives urgency to living consciously now. A song matters because silence eventually returns. A sunset matters because darkness follows. Human life matters because it does not last forever. And maybe wisdom is finally understanding this. You were never here to become perfect. You were here to awaken, to notice, to feel, to love, to experience existence before the moment disappears. The mind will continue creating noise sometimes. Fear will still visit. Pain will still arrive. But beneath all of it, something within you remains untouched, quiet, aware, alive. The part of you that was never broken by the world. The part waiting patiently beneath every identity and every thought. The part that finally understands. There was nowhere else to arrive. Only here. Only this. Only now. Part 17. The return to wonder. When human beings are children, life feels enormous. A small puddle becomes an ocean. A night sky becomes infinite mystery. A simple afternoon feels endless. Children do not experience life through heavy mental filters yet. They are not constantly calculating status, not obsessing over productivity, not measuring every moment against some imaginary future. They simply enter experience completely. And because of this, ordinary things feel magical. But slowly, something changes. The mind becomes crowded. Responsibilities appear. Fear appears. Comparison appears. The world teaches people to become efficient instead of awake, useful instead of present. And over time, many lose contact with wonder entirely. Life becomes repetition. Wake up, work, consume distraction, sleep, repeat. Days blur together until months disappear almost unnoticed. This is not because adulthood destroys beauty. It is because unconsciousness hides beauty. A person trapped inside constant mental noise cannot fully see life anymore. The world remains alive, but perception becomes dull. Think about how often humans stop noticing things they once loved. The smell of rain, music through headphones late at night, the comfort of silence, the shape of clouds, the sound of someone laughing sincerely. Familiarity creates blindness. The extraordinary becomes invisible through repetition. But awareness restores wonder. Not artificial excitement, not temporary stimulation. Wonder, a quieter, deeper feeling. The realization that existence itself is astonishing. Right now, your heart beats automatically without your command. The earth moves through endless space silently. Trees grow from invisible processes beneath soil. Consciousness itself exists mysteriously inside human beings. Yet people walk past these realities daily without noticing. Why? Because the mind becomes addicted to psychological urgency. Always somewhere else. Always chasing another moment. Wonder only appears in presence. A person watching a sunset while checking notifications experiences almost nothing. Another person fully present before the same sky may feel overwhelmed with gratitude. Same sunset, different attention. Attention changes reality. Where attention goes, life becomes vivid. This is why deeply present people often seem calmer and more alive than others. Not because their lives contain less difficulty, because they actually inhabit their moments. Most people experience only fragments of their own existence, half listening, half seeing, half feeling. Their bodies move through life while their minds remain elsewhere, and eventually they begin feeling emotionally numb. Not because life lost beauty, because attention lost intimacy with life. One of the greatest tragedies is not death itself. It is becoming emotionally absent before death arrives. Existing without truly living, speaking without truly listening, looking without truly seeing, touching without truly feeling. But wonder can return, quietly, unexpectedly. Sometimes during heartbreak, when life suddenly feels fragile again. Sometimes through nature, sometimes through silence, sometimes through love. A person sits beside the ocean after years of mental exhaustion and suddenly feels something they forgot existed. Awe. Not excitement, not entertainment. A deeper recognition of existence itself. In those moments, the mind becomes quiet naturally, because wonder dissolves psychological time temporarily. There is only direct experience, pure presence. This is why certain moments stay with humans forever. Not because they were grand externally, because for one brief instant, they were fully awake inside them. The truth is that wonder never disappeared completely. It became buried beneath routine, distraction, fear, and mental noise. And the doorway back is simpler than most imagine. Slow down. Look carefully. Listen completely. Feel this moment before naming it mentally. Notice the way light enters a room. Notice your breathing. Notice how every person around you carries an invisible universe of memories, fears, and dreams. Life becomes extraordinary when awareness deepens, not because reality changes, because perception becomes alive again. Many people search endlessly for meaning while ignoring the direct miracle of existence itself. You are conscious. You are here. You can feel music, taste food, love another human being, watch storms pass across the sky, experience beauty at all. That alone is astonishing. One day, none of this will remain exactly as it is now. This body will age. Moments will vanish. People will disappear. And perhaps that impermanence is what makes wonder possible in the first place, because temporary things ask to be noticed fully. A flower blooming for 1 week becomes precious. A conversation becomes sacred when understood as unrepeatable. Life itself becomes luminous when seen clearly. The awakened person is not someone who escaped reality. It is someone who finally learned how to see it again. Like a child returning to the world for the first time. Open. Present. Amazed. Part 18. The quiet truth beneath everything. At the end of all searching, all striving, all becoming, most humans arrive at the same realization. What they were truly seeking was never outside them. Not completely. Money can create comfort. Success can create opportunity. Love can deepen life beautifully. But none of these can permanently replace inner peace. Because peace is not something added to you. It is something uncovered. Beneath fear, beneath noise, beneath identity, beneath the endless movement of thought. Human beings spend years trying to fix themselves before realizing they were never fundamentally broken. Wounded, yes. Conditioned, yes. Lost inside mental noise, yes. But broken at their core? No. There has always been something untouched beneath every painful experience. Something silent, aware, alive. Even during your darkest moments, awareness remained present. It watched heartbreak, watched fear, watched confusion, watched every version of you come and go. And despite everything changing, that quiet awareness remained. Most people overlook this because they identify completely with temporary experience. A thought appears, I am failing, and instantly they believe it. An emotion appears, I am empty, and instantly identity attaches to it. But thoughts change, emotions move. Identity evolves constantly. So what is the deeper presence witnessing all of it? That question changes lives when experienced deeply enough. Not intellectually, directly. The answer cannot be fully explained in words because words belong to the mind. And this presence exists before language, before identity, before psychological stories. It reveals itself only in stillness, in moments where thought softens enough for awareness to notice itself. This is why silence feels sacred sometimes. Not because silence contains nothing, because silence reveals what noise was hiding. The modern world fears silence because silence interrupts distraction, and distraction keeps humans asleep psychologically, asleep to their own existence, asleep to impermanence, asleep to the miracle happening constantly around them. A conscious human being begins living differently, not necessarily externally. They may still work ordinary jobs, still face challenges, still experience sadness sometimes. But internally, something changes permanently. They stop building identity entirely from thought. They stop chasing worth endlessly. They stop postponing life until some imaginary future arrives. Instead, they begin inhabiting moments fully. Drinking tea becomes enough for one moment. Watching rain becomes enough. Breathing quietly at night becomes enough. Not because ambition disappeared, because presence returned. And presence transforms ordinary life into something intimate again. This does not mean suffering vanishes forever. Humans remain human. Fear still visits. Pain still comes. Loss still arrives. But awareness creates space around experience. A painful emotion no longer becomes total identity. A difficult moment no longer defines existence completely. Like clouds moving through the sky, experiences pass through awareness naturally. The sky itself remains open. You are that openness, not the temporary weather. One day, your entire personal story will end. Your achievements, your worries, your insecurities, your roles, all temporary. And strangely, realizing this can become deeply peaceful because it reveals what truly matters. Presence, love, awareness, connection. The direct experience of being alive while you still can. Most people wait for extraordinary moments to begin living consciously. But life is hidden inside ordinary moments almost entirely. The sound of footsteps at night, the feeling of sunlight through a window, a long conversation with someone you love, a quiet breath after crying, a song that suddenly touches your soul for reasons words cannot explain. This is life. Not later, not someday, now. And perhaps enlightenment is not becoming superhuman. Perhaps it is becoming fully human without running from reality anymore. without hiding constantly behind distraction and identity, without abandoning yourself mentally every moment. Just here, aware, open, alive. The mind may continue speaking forever, but now you know something deeper than the voice. You know the silence listening beneath it. And once that silence is recognized, life never feels entirely the same again, because the search slowly ends. Not because you found every answer, because you finally discovered the peace that was quietly waiting underneath every question all along. Final part, before you leave this life. One day, without realizing it, you will do something for the last time. The last walk through a familiar street. The last hug from someone you love. The last sunrise you ever see. The last time your name is spoken by a certain voice. And most likely, you will not know it is the last time while it is happening. That is the strange beauty of human life. It disappears quietly. Not all at once, moment by moment, breath by breath, season by season. Humans live as though time is endless because the mind fears impermanence deeply. So people postpone life, postpone peace, postpone honesty, postpone love, waiting for the right moment. But the right moment was never hiding in the future. It has always been now. This ordinary, temporary, irreplaceable now. Look at how quickly life changes. Children become strangers to their own childhood. Parents grow older silently. Friends drift away. Faces change. Dreams evolve. Entire years vanish like pages turning in a book read too quickly. And still, most humans move through life half awake, thinking about tomorrow while today disappears. The tragedy is not death itself. The tragedy is arriving at the end of life and realizing you were rarely fully present for it. Imagine reaching your final years and understanding that most moments were spent worrying, rushing, comparing, regretting, chasing, while life itself waited quietly beneath all that mental noise. The taste of morning coffee, rain against windows, laughter from another room, the warmth of someone sitting beside you silently. Tiny moments, sacred moments, moments the mind dismissed as ordinary while they were actually your life. One day, the things stressing you now may become memories so distant you barely recognize them. But the moments you truly felt alive, those remain. Not because they were perfect, because you were present. Perhaps that is the real purpose of awakening. Not escaping the world, not becoming emotionless, not achieving permanent happiness. Simply becoming awake enough to experience life before it disappears, to actually feel your existence while you still have one. Most humans search desperately for meaning, but maybe meaning is not something hidden somewhere far away. Maybe meaning is created whenever awareness fully touches life. When you listen deeply, love honestly, notice beauty without rushing past it, sit beside another human being without needing to escape the moment. Maybe meaning is this simple: a conscious life, a fully inhabited life. There is something deeply freeing about accepting that you cannot hold anything forever. Not youth, not relationships, not experiences, not even this version of yourself. Everything changes, everything moves, everything eventually returns to silence. And because of this, everything becomes infinitely precious. A flower matters because it fades. Music matters because it ends. Life matters because it is temporary. Impermanence is not the enemy of beauty. It is the reason beauty exists at all. The mind fears endings, but endings are what teach humans to love moments completely. Right now, somewhere in the world, someone is experiencing their final day without knowing it. Someone is hearing birds for the last time, seeing the ocean for the last time, holding someone's hand for the last time. And meanwhile, Millions rush through ordinary moments as though they are guaranteed forever. But nothing is guaranteed, except this moment, this breath, this brief opportunity to exist consciously before returning to silence again. And maybe that realization is enough to wake up, enough to stop postponing your life, enough to stop abandoning yourself mentally, enough to finally look around and realize you are already inside the miracle. Not near it, not chasing it, inside it. Alive on a moving planet beneath endless stars, capable of feeling music, grief, love, wonder, heartbreak, sunlight, connection, and consciousness itself. What an unbelievable thing it is to exist at all. So before you leave this life, slow down sometimes. Look at the sky longer. Tell people you love them while they can still hear it. Sit quietly without needing distraction every second. Listen fully when someone speaks. Feel your own heartbeat occasionally. Notice how temporary and sacred everything truly is. And when difficult moments arrive, because they will, remember this: you are not the passing storm. You are the awareness watching the storm move across the sky. Life will continue changing. People will come and go. Fear will visit. Joy will visit too. But beneath all of it, there remains something still within you. Something untouched. Something ancient. Something quietly alive. Return to that place often, because in the end, after all the searching, striving, becoming, and suffering, you may discover that peace was never far away. It was simply waiting for you to arrive fully in your own life.